Hello, the Divine Code for September 15th, pages 199 and 200. We're in the chapter, The Obligation to Eliminate Idol Worship and the Prohibition of Benefiting from It. This obligation is placed both on the individual and the public as a whole. It is forbidden for one to preserve in his domain any worship of idols or things that pertain to it. And it is likewise the obligation of every government, of every nation and its courts to remove all idol worship from its borders, since it is forbidden to preserve idol worship in any place or time. As it says in Exodus 20, verse 3, "You shall have no other gods before me." Before me, meaning any place or time that I, God, am there. That is anywhere or at any time. You shall have no other deities. So they're not, according to Exodus 23, we're not to have anything else. Anything of idol worship and anything of various deities or anything associated with the worship. Topic number 2. It is not incumbent upon Gentiles to wage war with idolatrous nations just for the purpose of eliminating their worship of idols. Clearly from Rambam, Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols 7:1. The permission, the Torah permission given to nations in regard to war is primarily in defensive war. Nations do not have the permission to go out and just start a war of conquest against another nation. Israel does, because as long as Israel is promoting the Torah. The question here is whether or not a nation can wage war against another nation for the purpose of promoting Torah. There's a dispute on that. But clearly from what we saw before is that within its own domain, a nation does have the requirement to eliminate idol worship within its own domain. Some authorities, such as the Responsa Shavut Yaakov, Volume 3, Chapter 38, hold that it is permitted to steal another's idols in order to destroy them and to prevent others from serving them. However, an individual should not do so if it causes strife. Rather, the courts should be charged with the task. Nevertheless, if one did steal an idol for this purpose, he is exempt from punishment. And the requirement to reimburse the idolater he's also exempt from the requirement to reimburse the idolater for the loss of the idol. Why then did Jacob make such a harsh judgment when his wife Rachel stole the idols of her father Laban? In order to separate her father from idolatry. This is how it's explained in Rashi on Genesis 31:19. On the contrary, from Rachel's act, we see that it was not regarded as theft, for otherwise, one as righteous as she would not have taken them. Jacob did not judge her specifically, but rather he was speaking in general terms to Laban about anyone who might have stolen anything, that is, from all your household objects, as said in Genesis 31:37. So there is an allowance for a regular non-Jew to steal an idol, to take an idol, for the purpose of distancing the owner from the idol worship. It's not considered a proper thing to do because doing so can cause strife. I mean, you take somebody else's property, they're going to get angry. The government should be charged with this task. So it's not really there's not an obligation on the individual. The obligation is on the government towards the other person, the third party. There's an allowance that if the person did it, they're not to be prosecuted and they're not required by Torah law to return, to reimburse the party for losing the idol. Topic number 3, idolatry. All items used in its service, offerings made to idols, and all that pertains to them are forbidden to possess as such and derive benefit from. Preserving any of these aspects of idolatry is an abomination to God, as it says, Deuteronomy 7, verse 26. You shall not bring an abomination into your house. One is obligated to either destroy or nullify anything of this nature. If it is not nullified, it may be destroyed by grinding it and throwing it to the wind, burning it, or throwing it into the deep sea, or things as such. However, burial of an idol that is not nullified is not destruction of the idol, since there is at least some small possibility that it might be found intact. So if the person, there's ways to nullify an idol, and that'll be described further in this chapter. That means to take an idol that was used for idol worship and to damage it in some way so it's no longer usable for idol worship. Or a person, if instead of nullifying it, they could destroy it in some way. But if it's being destroyed in such a way that it could be found, like today you dump something in the ocean and someone's going to, scuba diver's going to find it. Or if it's put in a field, it might be dug up. Therefore, in those kind of cases, it should be nullified and then thrown in the field, or dug in, buried in the field. Rambam, The Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, 7, 1 and 2, and 8, 6, and Shulchan Aruch Yeridea 146, 14. It is clear that Gentiles are forbidden to benefit from things that were used for idol worship, based on their obligation to destroy idolatry, since preservation of something is the opposite of destruction. The same appears to be the opinion of Sifat Pania, quoted above in footnote 190. It is found clearly in Ramban's exclamation on Tractate of Avodah Zarah 59b that Gentiles are forbidden to benefit from items offered for idol worship and from libations that are poured for idols. So we have no permission to benefit. That's, to use something. If someone was sacrificed to an idol, and there's leather made from the hide, we were not allowed to benefit to use that leather. Or flowers were offered to the idol as not as decoration, but as a form of their service. We would be forbidden from using the flowers. And it just goes on with anything that is associated with the service, the worship service for an idol, or the idol itself. If a Gentile nullifies any type of idol by one of the methods that will be explained below. It is permitted for a Gentile to preserve and benefit from it after its nullification. So once it's nullified, and there's going to be a long explanation about how that process works, then it is permitted for use. Rambam, the laws of the worship of stars and idols, 8:9. And even if a pious Gentile who faithfully observes the Noahide code and does not worship any idols is able to nullify any idol for Gentile use, as explained below in topic 13. This is, however, subject to the restrictions in chapter 5 regarding human figures. So, if it's nullified, it has to be nullified in such a way that would pass the test that we learned, that was learned earlier, concerning just regular statues. So one of the methods of nullification would be to toss, if it's discarded. If the idol worshippers discard the idol, then it's considered no longer to be, it's considered to be a nullified idol. That's one of the ways of nullification. However, it would still be considered a statue. Therefore, it would have to be disfigured in such a way that it would fit the restrictions concerning ordinary statues. This is subject to the following limitations. First limitation: nullification of an idol is accomplished only if it is done either by the Gentile who owns the idol, or if he is forced to do so by any Gentile. If the owner agrees and gives his permission to do so. So it seems in the case of if the idol is stolen, it cannot be nullified and then used by the person who did the stealing, because that would be actual theft. The person who does the stealing would have to destroy the idol. It's only if the owner gives permission, then it wouldn't be stealing. If the owner gives permission for the other Gentile to nullify it, then it can be nullified. The second limitation: a Jew cannot nullify an idol to make it permissible to benefit from. If he does not find a Gentile to nullify it for him, he must destroy the idol. So a Jew is not able to nullify an idol. They don't have the capacity. But a Gentile could do it for the Jew. If the Jew is not able to find a Gentile to do it for him, then the Jew would have to destroy the idol, right? It can't be nullified. Thank you.